that I use mainly on hinges, but I use them for just about everything. Very easy to make, and I'm going to cut in shots of just some of the million different ways I use these things. They are invaluable. Old cracker boxes, pizza boxes, beer 6-packs, cereal boxes, whatever you got. And I like to make them in two sizes. 3 1/4 inches, that's for my 3.5 inch hinges, and then 3 3/4 inches for my 4-inch hinges. I like to draw these out so they're nice and even. You don't want to use the kind of cardboard that compresses, that has the air pockets in it. Those are too thick and they're inaccurate. If you use this thin cardboard, it cannot be compressed, and you can also do micro adjustments with this. But I just use the scissors and I go through them all the time. And this goes for whether you're mortising the door or the jamb. You always want the hinge to be flush with the edge of the door or the edge of the jamb. You don't want them up like that. If you put them in like that, that's going to screw up the hinge. So there, we've got 3 shims. When I screw that in, it's going to be perfectly flush with the edge of the door. Suppose you're installing the bolt for a lock, or you're repairing one, and you determine that that mortise is too deep. Instead of the lock being flush with the door, it goes in too far, and you need to bring it out. Just grab your hinge shims. Just cut off or rip off a little end. Fold it up as many times as I have to. And I do one for the top and one for the bottom. And you push them in like that. And it gives you the depth that you need. Okay, so my hinge is here, and what I want to do is just tilt it so it goes here. See that? By doing that, that's going to move the door over that way, about 1/8 inch. So I want to use hinge shims. So I've got my hinge shims. Now if I just take the hinge shims and put them behind there, that doesn't tilt the hinge, that just brings the hinge out. So I'm going to cut my hinge shims in half, and I'm using 2 of them. So by putting them right there, that causes the hinge to tilt this way. And it doesn't take a lot. If I wanted the hinge to tilt this way, I could put these right here. That's going to move the door over that way, about 1/8 inch. And when you do this, you want to put in your screws first wherever the shim is not. So the shim is here, so I don't want to put my screw in there. I want to put them in there, and that maintains the angle. Now, the hinge, instead of being here, is now here. So I'll do that on all 3 hinges. When you are installing stop, if you're installing a door where there wasn't one before and you have to add stop, or you're building a jamb, or maybe you had to pull the stop off and reinstall it, the stop can't be right against the door. You want it a little bit away from the door. So I take 2 shims and I put it against there. And I know it's the right distance. So I use them as spacers too. You're fine tuning a door, and sometimes you can feel them and you can hear them rubbing, but you aren't sure exactly where it starts rubbing. But you know you've got a good gap somewhere. Stick it in that gap and move it down. Oh, it stops right there. So that's, I know it's starting to rub there. So I'm going to start my planing in that area. 10 minutes later, I got 2 more packs of shims. Keep these things wherever you're working. You can use them for everything.